The alarm bells rang through the medical ship Mercy's Light as it moved through space toward the emergency call. Dr. Jake Martinez ran his hands through his black hair and looked at the screen showing the dying colony ship ahead. The Zephyrian vessel was huge, almost 3 times the size of his own ship, but it was clearly in trouble. Strange green smoke came from several holes in its side. "How many people are on that ship?" Jake asked his second-in-command, Dr. Amy Carter. She was a small woman with blonde hair who specialized in treating alien diseases. "Our scans show about 10,000 Zephyrians," Amy replied, her voice tight with worry. "But Jake, their life signs are getting weaker by the hour. Whatever is killing them is spreading fast." Jake nodded and pressed the communication button. "This is Dr. Martinez of the Earth medical ship Mercy's Light. We received your distress call and are here to help. Please prepare your docking bay for our medical team." The reply came in broken English with the musical accent that all Zephyrians had. "Thank you, humans. We are dying. Our medicine does nothing. Please hurry." Within minutes, Jake and his team were suited up and ready to board the alien ship. Nurse Tony Blake, a big man with gray hair who had been saving lives in space for 20 years, carried the heavy medical equipment. Dr. Amy Carter held her scanner that could detect alien diseases. Behind them came 12 more medical officers, all wearing the bright white uniforms with red crosses that marked them as Earth medics. The Zephyrian ship smelled strange, like flowers mixed with metal. The blue-skinned aliens who met them at the docking bay looked terrible. Their normally bright blue skin had turned a sickly gray color, and many could barely stand. "I am Captain Veltar," said the tallest Zephyrian, his voice weak. 3 days ago, our people started getting sick. First just a few, then dozens, now thousands. Our doctors cannot find the cause." Jake immediately went to work. He pulled out his medical scanner and ran it over the sick captain. The device beeped and showed readings that made Jake frown. "Amy, look at this," he called to Dr. Carter. She hurried over and looked at the scanner. "I've never seen anything like this," she whispered. "It's attacking their nervous system and their blood at the same time." For the next 6 hours, the human medical team worked without rest. They moved through the Zephyrian ship, treating the sick and trying to understand the disease. Tony Blake set up a field hospital in the ship's main cargo area. Dr. Carter took blood samples and ran tests in her portable lab. The disease was unlike anything they had seen before. It seemed to be part virus and part poison, designed specifically to kill Zephyrians. Their blue blood turned black as the sickness spread through their bodies. "Jake," Amy called from her lab station. "I think I found something. This isn't a natural disease. Someone made this to kill Zephyrians." Jake felt anger rise in his chest. Who would create a weapon designed to kill an entire species? The Zephyrians were peaceful traders who never hurt anyone. "Can you cure it?" he asked. "Maybe," Amy said, her fingers flying over her computer. "If I combine human antiviral medicine with Zephyrian blood proteins, I might be able to stop it. But I need more time." "How much time?" Jake asked, watching as more sick Zephyrians were brought into their makeshift hospital. 12 hours? Maybe more." Jake looked around at the dying aliens. Many of them were children, their small blue faces pale with sickness. "We don't have 12 hours. Half of them will be dead by then." But Tony Blake had an idea. "What if we use human blood?" he suggested. "Our immune system is different. Maybe we can filter their blood through our bodies and clean out the disease." It was dangerous. Human and Zephyrian blood were not the same, but Jake made the decision quickly. "Do it," he said. "Set up blood transfer stations. We'll use our own blood to keep them alive while Amy works on a real cure." For the next 10 hours, the human medical team gave their own blood to save the dying Zephyrians. Jake felt weak and dizzy, but he kept working. Tony Blake collapsed twice from blood, lost but got back up each time. Even Dr. Carter, who was small and couldn't give much blood, worked without stopping on her cure. Finally, just as Jake thought they might all pass out from exhaustion, Amy's computer beeped with success. "I've got it," she shouted. "The cure works." The medicine spread through the Zephyrian ship like magic. Within hours, the gray skin turned blue again. The dying alien sat up and began to talk. Children who had been barely breathing started to laugh and play. Captain Veltar found Jake as the human doctor was packing up his equipment. The Zephyrian's blue skin was bright and healthy again. "Dr. Martinez," he said, his musical voice strong once more. "You saved us all. How can we ever repay you?" Jake smiled and shook his head. "We don't need payment. Helping others is what we do. Just remember that humans will always come when you call for help." As the Mercy's light flew away from the now healthy colony ship, Jake sat in his captain's chair and felt good about their work. In the past 3 days, they had saved 10,000 lives. It was just another mission for Earth's medical fleet. But far away, on a dark ship hidden in an asteroid field, reptilian eyes watched the rescue through powerful telescopes. The Kethvar Empire had been testing their new biological weapon on the Zephyrians. They wanted to see how well it worked before using it on their enemies. The humans had ruined their test. General Sktar, the Kethvar military leader, turned away from the viewing screen. His scaled face showed anger and disgust. "These humans make the galaxy weak," he hissed to his officers. "They save those who should die. They help the inferior survive." "What should we do, General?" asked his second-in-command. The reptilian. General's yellow eyes glowed with hate. "We eliminate the problem," he said. "We destroy the humans who dare to interfere with natural selection. The weak must die, and those who save the weak must die with them." On the peaceful medical ship, Dr. Jake Martinez had no idea that his act of mercy had just signed the death warrant for every human medic in the galaxy. 3 months had passed since Dr. Jake Martinez and his team saved the Zephyrian colony ship. Now Jake stood on the observation deck of Medical Station Sigma-7, watching the ships come and go from the busy space station. The station was huge, shaped like a giant wheel spinning slowly in space above the planet Haven Prime. Sigma-7 was the most important medical station in this part of the galaxy. 2,000 doctors, nurses, and medical officers from Earth worked here. They treated patients from dozens of different alien species and coordinated emergency medical responses across 12 star systems. Jake had been promoted to chief administrator of the station after his success with the Zephyrians. It was a big job, but he was proud to help save even more lives. His best friend, Dr. Kevin Ross, ran the emergency room. Kevin was a tall man with red hair who could work for days without sleep when lives were at stake. "Another busy day," said Commander Lisa Harper, as she joined Jake at the window. Lisa was the captain of the medical frigate Healing Dawn and was responsible for the security of all medical ships in the area. She was a strong woman with brown hair who had served in Earth's space fleet for 15 years before joining the medical service. "Look at that," Jake said, pointing to a large gray ship approaching the station. "Kethvar military vessel. That's unusual." Lisa frowned as she looked at the reptilian ship. "They rarely ask for medical help. Their culture believes that weakness should be eliminated, not treated." The communication system crackled to life. "Sigma-7, this is Kethvar battlecruiser Fang of War. We request immediate medical assistance. We have wounded soldiers who need treatment." Jake pressed the reply button. "This is Dr. Martinez, Chief Administrator of Sigma-7. We will be happy to help your wounded. Please dock at Bay 7. "Thank you, human doctor," came the reply in the harsh accent of the Kethvar. Captain Steve Murphy, the security chief of Sigma-7, came running to the observation deck. Steve was a short, muscular man who took his job of protecting the medical staff very seriously. "Dr. Martinez," he said, breathing hard, "I don't like this. The Kethvar ship has heavy weapons and a full military crew. Why would they come here instead of their own medical ships?" Jake thought about it for a moment. "Maybe their doctors can't treat the injuries. We've seen some strange diseases lately. Remember the Zephyrian plague? Their own medicine couldn't help them either." Lisa nodded, but she still looked worried. "I'll keep the Healing Dawn on standby just in case." An hour later, the Kethvar soldiers came aboard Sigma-7. There were 50 of them, all tall and covered in green scales. They walked upright like humans, but had long tails and yellow eyes like snakes. Their leader was a huge reptilian with scars covering his face. "I am Commander Vashkar," the scarred Kethvar said to Dr. Ross in the emergency room. We have 30 wounded warriors who need immediate care. Dr. Ross looked at the injured Kethvar soldiers being brought in on stretchers. They had burns and cuts from some kind of battle. What happened to them? He asked. Training accident, Vashkar replied quickly. Our new weapons sometimes malfunction. Young medic Sarah Johnson, who was only 23 and on her first assignment in deep space, began treating one of the wounded Kethvar. She was a small woman with blonde hair who had graduated at the top of her medical class. Don't worry, she told the injured reptilian soldier. We'll take good care of you. Dr. Ross worked alongside Sarah and 12 other medical officers to treat the Kethvar wounded. It was strange work because Kethvar biology was different from human biology, but Earth's doctors were trained to treat all species. They gave the reptilian soldiers medicine for pain and began healing their injuries. For 2 hours, everything seemed normal. The Kethvar soldiers lay quietly on the medical beds while the human doctors worked to save their lives. Commander Vashkar watched everything with his cold yellow eyes. Then, without warning, Vashkar made a signal with his clawed hand. The wounded Kethvar soldiers suddenly jumped up from their medical beds. The injuries had been fake. Hidden weapons appeared in their hands, the medical bay filled with the sound of energy weapons firing. Dr. Ross was the first to die. He was checking on a patient when the Kethvar soldier he was treating shot him in the chest. Kevin fell to the floor, his white medical coat turning red with blood. Kevin! Sarah Johnson screamed, running toward her friend and mentor. A Kethvar soldier shot her in the back before she could reach him. She crawled toward Dr. Ross, leaving a trail of blood behind her. Captain Murphy heard the shooting and ran toward the medical bay with his security team. But more Kethvar soldiers were waiting in the hallways. They had weapons hidden all over the station. Steve Murphy fought bravely, but he was outnumbered 10-1. He died protecting the evacuation routes, giving some medical staff time to escape. All over Sigma-7, the massacre continued. The Kethvar had planned everything carefully. They knew where every important doctor worked. They knew where the emergency systems were located. They moved through the station like a deadly plague, killing every human medical officer they could find. Jake Martinez was in his office when the attack began. He heard the alarms and the screaming over the communication system. All medical personnel to emergency evacuation points, he announced, but it was too late for most of them. Commander Vashkar found Jake trying to help wounded staff members escape. You are the chief healer, the reptilian said, pointing his weapon at Jake. You make the galaxy weak by saving the inferior. We save lives, Jake said, standing in front of a group of young medical students. That's what we do. Not anymore, Vashkar replied, and pulled the trigger. Jake fell to the ground, badly wounded but still alive. He watched in horror as the Kethvar soldiers executed the medical students one by one. Young Sarah Johnson crawled over to him, her strength failing. Why? She whispered with her last breath. Why would they kill healers? Jake couldn't answer. He was bleeding too much and starting to lose consciousness. Around him, the space station that had once been a symbol of hope and healing was becoming a tomb. Of the 2,000 medical personnel on Sigma-7, only 47 survived by hiding in the emergency bunkers. The rest were dead, killed by the species they had tried to help. Commander Vashkar stood in the main medical bay, surrounded by the bodies of human doctors and nurses. He activated his communication system and broadcast a message across the galaxy. Let all species hear this message, his harsh voice echoed through space. We have eliminated the weak makers. The humans who saved the inferior have been punished. Let the galaxy return to strength through struggle. Let the weak die as nature intended. Jake Martinez, barely alive and floating in an escape pod, heard the message as he drifted through space. With his last bit of strength, he sent a transmission back to Earth. They killed the healers, he whispered into his communicator. They killed everyone. The Kethvar murdered our medical staff. They said we make the galaxy weak by saving lives. Then Jake passed out from blood loss, not knowing if his message would ever reach home. But it did reach Earth. And when it arrived, everything changed. The news of the Sigma-7 massacre reached Earth 12 hours after Jake Martinez sent his dying message. The transmission played in the Global Medical Authority headquarters, and the room fell completely silent. Director Kate Williams, a gray-haired woman who had spent 40 years building Earth's medical fleet, watched the recording 3 times before she could speak. "Recall every medical ship," she said quietly. "Every single one. Bring them all home." Within days, something strange happened. Across the galaxy, the white ships with red crosses that had traveled between stars for 200 years simply vanished. Medical stations went dark. Emergency response teams stopped answering distress calls. For the first time since humans had left Earth, the Red Cross disappeared from space. Admiral Ben Clark stood in the command center of Earth Defense Force headquarters, watching reports flood in from across the galaxy. Ben was a tall man with gray hair who had commanded Earth's military for 10 years. He had never seen anything like this. "Sir," said his communications officer, "we're getting hundreds of emergency calls. The Altair system is reporting a plague outbreak with no medical support. The Centauri colonies are begging for help with their wounded from a mining accident. 3 different species are asking when our medical ships will return." "Let them wait," Admiral Clark replied coldly. "Schedule an emergency meeting with Director Williams and General Rick Stone. We need to discuss our options." 3 hours later, the most powerful leaders on Earth sat around a secure table deep underground. Director Williams looked tired and old. Admiral Clark studied reports on his tablet. General Stone, a large man with a scarred face from his years as a Special Forces soldier, waited patiently for the meeting to begin. 2,000 medical officers, Director Williams said slowly. 2,000 of our best doctors and nurses, murdered while they were saving lives. And for what? Because the Kethvar think helping the weak is wrong. "What's the galactic response?" Admiral Clark asked. "Nothing," Williams replied, her voice full of anger. "Complete silence. No government has condemned the attack. No species has offered to help hunt down the killers. They're all just waiting for us to go back to work like nothing happened." General Stone leaned forward. "Maybe it's time to remind them why they need us." Director Williams looked at him with tired eyes. "Rick, we're healers, not killers. It goes against everything we believe in." "They made that choice for us," Admiral Clark said firmly. "When they allowed our medical staff to be slaughtered, they declared war on the very idea of helping others." Williams was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached into her briefcase and pulled out a thick file marked with warning labels. "There is something," she said reluctantly. "Something we hoped we would never use." She opened the file and spread papers across the table. "Protocol Harvest. We developed it 300 years ago when we first went into space. Back then, we weren't sure if aliens would be friendly or hostile." Admiral Clark picked up one of the documents and read it. His face went pale. "Kate, this is—" "I know what it is," Williams interrupted. "Every human medical officer carries nanotechnology designed to preserve and record biological information. Every time they treat a patient, scan a patient, or even touch a patient, the nanobots catalog everything. Every genetic weakness, every biological vulnerability, every disease we've cured." General Stone studied the papers with professional interest. "For 200 years, your people have been mapping the genetic weaknesses of every species in the galaxy." "It was supposed to be for research," Williams said defensively, "to help us treat diseases better, to understand alien biology so we could save more lives. But it could be used for other purposes," Admiral Clark said quietly. Williams nodded slowly. "Every pathogen we've cured, every genetic disorder we've treated, every biological weakness we've observed, all of it has been cataloged and stored in our medical databases. We know how to kill every species in the galaxy." The room was silent for several minutes. Finally, General Stone spoke. "The question is, do we use it?" Dr. Jake Martinez, who had been recovering in a military hospital, was brought to the meeting in a wheelchair. His wounds from Sigma-7 were healing, but he would never be the same. The cheerful doctor who had saved the Zephyrians was gone, replaced by a man with haunted eyes. "Jake," Director Williams said gently, "we need your input. You were there. You saw what they did." Jake's voice was barely a whisper. "They killed Kevin while he was treating their wounded. They shot Sarah in the back while she was trying to help. They murdered children, Kate. Medical students who had never hurt anyone. Would Kevin want us to become killers? Williams asked. Jake was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was different, harder. Kevin is dead. Sarah is dead. 2,000 healers are dead. They didn't kill us because we were a threat. They killed us because we were helping people they wanted to see die. Admiral Clark nodded. They made their position clear. In their view, the weak deserve to die, and anyone who helps the weak is an enemy. So what do we do? General Stone asked. Jake looked up at the three leaders, and they saw something in his eyes that made them all uncomfortable. We give them what they want, he said quietly. They believe the weak should die. Let's show them just how weak they really are. Director. Williams stared at Jake in shock. You're talking about genocide. I'm talking about justice, Jake replied. They started this war when they decided our healers were the enemy. They want to see who's weak and who's strong. Fine. Let's find out. Admiral Clark made the decision. Protocol harvest is approved. Begin immediate production of harvester ships. Transfer all medical personnel to the new program. And our regular medical operations? Williams asked. Suspended indefinitely, Clark replied. Let the galaxy see what happens when they take Earth's healers for granted. Within weeks, the word spread across the galaxy. Earth's medical ships were not coming back. Species that had relied on human doctors for generations found themselves facing diseases and injuries with no help. The mortality rates that had dropped dramatically since humans began providing medical aid started climbing again. The Zephyrians, who owed their lives to Dr. Martinez and his team, sent desperate messages to Earth. Please, their leader begged, we need your help. Without your medicine, we cannot survive. But Earth was silent. In secret shipyards around Earth's moon, construction began on a new type of vessel. These ships were painted black instead of white. The red cross on their sides glowed like fresh blood. They carried medical equipment, but not for healing. The harvesters were being born. Admiral Clark stood in the viewing window of the construction facility, watching the first harvester ship take shape. They wanted to see human nature without compassion, he said to General Stone. They attacked our healers to remove mercy from the equation. And now? Stone asked. Clark's smile was cold and dangerous. Now they get to find out what humans are like when we stop caring about saving lives and start focusing on taking them. The first harvester ship, painted black with a blood-red cross, launched from Earth exactly 6 months after the Sigma-7 massacre. Its destination was a Kethavar military base. Its mission was not to heal, but to harvest. The age of human mercy was over. The time of the harvesters had begun. The first harvester ship arrived at Kethavar military base Delta 9 exactly 6 months after the Sigma-7 massacre. The vessel looked different from the old Earth medical ships. Instead of clean white paint, it was matte black with a red cross that seemed to glow like fresh blood. The ship's name, painted in dark red letters, was Final Treatment. Captain Dan Foster stood on the bridge looking at the Kethavar space station ahead. Dan had been a medical officer for 15 years before Sigma-7. He had saved thousands of Xiao lives across the galaxy. Now he commanded a ship designed for a very different purpose. Receiving transmission from the Kethavar base, reported his communications officer, Lieutenant Mike Chen. Mike had been a battlefield medic before joining the harvesters. He was young, only 25, but the massacre had changed him like it had changed all of them. Put it through, Dan said calmly. The voice that came over the speakers was harsh and mocking. Human ship, you are not welcome here. We remember what happened to your weak healers at Sigma-7. Turn around and go home. Dan smiled, but it was not a kind smile. This is Captain Foster of the Earth medical ship Final Treatment. We received reports of wounded soldiers at your base. We're here to provide medical assistance. There was laughter from the Kethavar. You humans never learn. We told the galaxy that we eliminated your healers because they made everyone weak. And still you come crawling back to help us. That's what we do, Dan replied. We help the sick and wounded. May we dock? After several minutes, the Kethvar granted permission. They remembered their easy victory at Sigma-7 and thought these humans would be just as defenseless. Dr. Linda Parker prepared her medical equipment as the ship docked. Linda had been a children's doctor before the massacre. She had spent her career healing sick babies and making children smile. Now she studied ways to make entire species stop breathing. Her blonde hair was pulled back strictly, and her blue eyes showed no warmth. "Target confirmed," she reported to Captain Foster. 47 wounded Kethvar soldiers in their medical bay. Perfect for our purposes. Specialist Julie Davis checked her genetic warfare equipment one more time. Julie was barely 22 and had graduated from medical school just weeks before Sigma-7. She had planned to spend her life helping people. Instead, she learned to engineer death with precision that would have impressed any weapon maker. "All systems ready, Captain," Julie reported. "Nanobots are programmed and waiting for deployment." The Harvester team entered the Kethvar station wearing the same white medical uniforms that human doctors had always worn. They carried the same medical equipment and spoke the same gentle words. But everything had changed. Commander Vashkar, the same reptilian who had led the massacre at Sigma-7, met them at the airlock. His scarred face showed amusement as he looked at the human medical team. "More weak healers," he hissed to his soldiers. "Did you not learn from what happened to your friends?" Captain Foster looked directly into Vashkar's yellow eyes. "We learned many things from Sigma-7. Would you like us to share what we learned?" Vashkar laughed. "Show us, human. Try to make us weak with your healing." The human medical team was led to the station's medical bay, where 47 wounded Kethvar soldiers lay on beds. They had been injured in a recent battle and needed treatment for burns and broken bones. Dr. Parker began her work immediately. She moved from bed to bed, scanning each wounded soldier with her medical equipment. But she wasn't looking for ways to heal them. She was studying their biology, mapping their genetic structure, cataloging their weaknesses. "Interesting," she said quietly to Julie Davis. "Their immune system is adapted for desert environments. Very strong against heat-based pathogens, but completely defenseless against cold-adapted viruses." Julie nodded and made notes on her tablet. "Their cellular structure is also vulnerable to specific protein chains. I can design something that will target only Kethvar physiology." Lieutenant Mike Chen assisted by taking blood samples from each patient. "For testing," he explained to the Kethvar guards who watched suspiciously. The reptilian soldiers didn't know that each blood sample was being analyzed by advanced computers that could map an entire species' genetic code in minutes. For 3 hours, the human medical team worked. They treated the wounded Kethvar soldiers professionally, healing their injuries and easing their pain. The reptilian warriors gradually relaxed, thinking these humans were the same weak healers they had murdered before. But Dr. Parker was also injecting something else into each patient. Nanobots so small they couldn't be detected by Kethvar medical equipment. The tiny machines looked like medicine to any scanner, but they carried something much more dangerous. "Treatment complete," Dr. Parker announced to Commander Vashkar. "Your soldiers should recover fully within a few days." Vashkar examined the treated soldiers. Their burns were healing, and their broken bones were mending. "You humans are useful," he admitted grudgingly. "Perhaps we will let some of you live to serve us." Captain Foster packed up his medical equipment. "We're just happy we could help," he said politely. "If you need us again, just call." As the Harvester team prepared to leave, Vashkar couldn't resist one more insult. "Tell your Earth government that the Kethvar Empire might have use for human healers, as long as you remember your place as servants to the strong." "We'll remember everything," Dan replied. "Especially what you taught us at Sigma-7. The final." Treatment undocked from the Kethvar station and moved away into space. Once they were at a safe distance, Captain Foster activated his ship's communication system. "This is Captain Foster broadcasting on all frequencies." His voice echoed across space to every Kethvar ship and station. "We want to thank Commander Vashkar and his soldiers for the valuable lesson they taught us at Sigma-7. You showed us that the weak deserve to die, and that those who help the weak are enemies." In the medical bay of the HFY station, the treated soldiers were beginning to feel strange. The nanobots Dr. Parker had injected were activating, releasing a pathogen designed specifically for HFY biology. "You taught us that strength is everything," Foster continued. "So we studied strength. We learned that true strength isn't about who can fight the best. It's about who can survive what others cannot." The HFY soldiers started coughing. Their green scales began turning gray. The pathogen was spreading through their bloodstream, attacking systems that existed only in HFY physiology. "The medicine we gave your soldiers contains a special gift," Foster explained as his ship moved further away. "A virus engineered from 200 years of studying HFY biology. Every time our doctors treated your people, we learned more about how to kill you." Commander Vashkar rushed to the medical bay and saw his soldiers dying. Their immune systems, so perfectly adapted to their harsh homeworld, had no defense against humanity's precision-engineered plague. "You see," Foster's voice continued over the radio, "we were never weak. We were just being merciful. You eliminated our mercy at Sigma 7. Now you get to see what humans are really like." The pathogen spread through the HFY station like wildfire. Every reptilian who had been exposed to the treated soldiers became infected. Within hours, the entire base was dying. "This is just the beginning," Foster announced. "Every species that stayed silent during the Sigma 7 massacre will receive the same gift. Every government that thought our healers deserved to die will learn what human medicine can really do." The final treatment disappeared into the darkness of space, leaving behind a HFY station full of corpses. But its mission was just starting. There were many more stops to make, many more lessons to teach. Dr. Jake Martinez, monitoring the mission from Earth, watched the reports with satisfaction. "How many HFY are on that station?" he asked his assistant. 2,000, sir, all. Dead within 6 hours." Jake nodded. It was the same number as the humans killed at Sigma 7. Perfect symmetry. But this was only the first payment on a much larger debt. The harvesters had awakened, and they were hungry for justice. 1 year after the Sigma 7 massacre, the galaxy had become a very different place. The proud HFY empire, which once controlled dozens of star systems, was gone. Their homeworld was silent. Their mighty fleets drifted empty through space. Of the billions of reptilian warriors who had once terrorized weaker species, only a few thousand remained, hiding on distant colonies and begging for mercy. Dr. Jake Martinez stood in his new office on Earth, looking at reports from across the WA galaxy. He was no longer just a doctor. Now he held the title of Director of Harvester Operations, commanding a fleet of black ships that brought a different kind of medicine to the stars. "Status report," Jake said to his assistant. A young woman named Carol, who had lost her brother at Sigma 7. 43 species have been targeted by the harvesters, Carol reported. All governments that remained silent during the massacre have received treatment. The Vorthan Republic lost 60% of their population. The Malak Federation is extinct. The Centauri Alliance is begging for negotiations. Jake nodded without emotion. Each number represented millions of dead aliens, but he felt nothing. The cheerful doctor who had once saved Zephyrian children was gone, replaced by something colder and more practical. Ambassador Helen Gray prepared for the most important meeting in galactic history. Helen was a tall woman with gray hair who had spent 30 years in diplomatic service. She had once worked to build friendships between Earth and alien governments. Now she would dictate terms to the survivors. The meeting was held on Haven Prime, the same neutral world that had once been protected by medical station Sigma 7. The irony was not lost on anyone. Where human healers had once worked to save lives, now the galaxy's leaders gathered to surrender. Representatives from 23 surviving species sat around a large table. Many chairs were empty. The beings who should have filled them were dead, victims of humanity's precise biological warfare. The survivors looked scared and defeated. Captain Dan Foster, now Admiral of the Harvester Fleet, stood guard during the meeting. His black uniform bore the blood-red cross that had become a symbol of terror across the galaxy. Behind him stood other former healers who had become humanity's new enforcers. The Zephyrian representative, Captain Veltar, was the first to speak. His blue skin was pale with fear, but he had earned the right to be heard. His people had been among the few to condemn the Sigma-7 massacre. Ambassador Gray, Veltar said in his musical voice, "My people remember Dr. Martinez and his team. They saved us when we were dying. We spoke against the attack on your healers. Please, we need Earth's doctors to return. Without your medicine, diseases are spreading everywhere." Helen Gray looked at the Zephyrian captain with cold eyes. "Your people were not targeted by the harvesters because you showed honor. But the galaxy's medical situation is no longer our primary concern." A representative from the Altair Council, a bird-like creature with golden feathers, stood up nervously. "Please, humans, we understand you are angry, but innocent people are dying without medical care. Children are suffering from diseases that your doctors could easily cure." "Children suffered at Sigma-7 too," Admiral Foster said quietly. "Medical. Students who had never hurt anyone were executed while trying to help the wounded. Did you speak for them?" The bird creature's feathers drooped in shame. We were afraid of the Kethvar. We thought it was better to stay neutral." "Neutrality in the face of evil is complicity," Ambassador Gray replied. "You chose silence when our healers were murdered. Now you face the consequences of that choice." The representative from the Tau Ceti Union, a tall gray alien with large black eyes, tried a different approach. "What do you want from us? What can we do to restore medical services?" Helen Gray stood up and activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. Red dots marked the locations of harvester ships. They were everywhere, watching and waiting. "The old galaxy is dead," she announced. "The galaxy where Earth provided free medical care to anyone who asked, where human doctors risked their lives to save alien species, where we expected nothing in return except the knowledge that we were helping preserve life. That galaxy died at Sigma-7. She pressed a button, and the display changed to show Earth's new fleet. Hundreds of ships, both black harvesters and white medical vessels, waited in Earth's star system. "This is the new galaxy," Gray continued. "Earth will provide medical services, but under our terms and our protection. Any attack on human medical personnel will result in the complete extinction of the attacking species. Any government that supports such attacks will face the same fate." An alien from the Rigel Confederacy, a creature that looked like a walking tree, asked the question they were all thinking. "What if we refuse?" Admiral Foster smiled, and it was a terrible sight. "Then you die. We've proven we can eliminate any species we choose. The Kethvar thought they were the strongest warriors in the galaxy. Now they're nearly extinct." Dr. Jake Martinez's voice came over the communication system from Earth. "Some of you are wondering if we're still the same humans who used to heal your people. The answer is yes and no. We are what you made us." The display showed images from Sigma-7, the bodies of human doctors and nurses scattered throughout the station. Several alien representatives looked away in shame. "You wanted to see human nature without compassion," Jake's voice continued. "You wanted to know what we were like when we stopped caring about saving the weak. Congratulations. You got your wish." Ambassador Gray gestured to the harvester ships visible through the station's windows. "These vessels represent the new order. They carry both the tools of healing and the tools of death. We will heal those who deserve healing. We will eliminate those who threaten healers." The Zephyrian captain spoke again. "Will you return to healing? Will you help the innocent who are suffering?" "Yes," Gray replied. "But under new rules. Human medical personnel will be protected by harvester escorts. Any station or ship that requests aid will allow human security forces aboard. Any species that attacks our healers will be marked for extinction." She pressed another button, and the display showed construction on a massive space station. "This is Medical Command, our new headquarters in the Vega system. All medical operations will be coordinated from there. All requests for aid must be approved by human authorities." The tree-like alien from Rigel spoke nervously. "This sounds like you're taking control of galactic medicine." "We're taking control of what was always ours," Admiral Foster replied. "Human medicine, human knowledge, human compassion. You proved that these gifts cannot be freely given without being abused." Ambassador Gray concluded the meeting with a simple declaration. "The Galactic Medical Protectorate is hereby established under Earth's authority. We will heal the galaxy, but we will never again allow our healers to be defenseless." 3 months later, the first new medical ships left Earth. They were painted, white like the old days, but each one was escorted by black harvester vessels. The Red Cross returned to space, but now it served as both a symbol of healing and a reminder of what happened to those who attacked healers. Dr. Jake Martinez stood in the medical bay of the new flagship, watching young doctors treat alien patients under the protection of armed guards. The galaxy was being healed again, but the age of innocence was over. "Any regrets?" asked Dr. Amy Carter, who had survived the Zephyrian mission and now served as his second-in-command. Jake looked at the alien patients receiving life-saving treatment from human doctors. Then he looked at the harvester ships visible outside the window, ready to destroy anyone who threatened his people. "The weak still inherit the galaxy," he said quietly, "but only because the strong protect them. And everyone now knows exactly how strong humanity can be." The Red Cross flew among the stars once more, but the galaxy would never forget the year it disappeared and what happened to those who had driven it away.